said you were turning it on. Call to order this meeting of Fitchburg Board of Public Works for May 1st, 2023, held in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. Attending tonight, myself as chair, board member Kim Lobdell. We have two new members, Bill Jetzer from the District 2 on council, and Don Gutkowski, right? Okay, who joins the board as at this time, I'll give you each, I'd like you to each introduce yourself, let us know where you, what you do for a living. In your case, you know, you're retired, Don, but let us know what you're doing, and maybe let us know what other committees you're on in the city. So I'll let Bill start.
All right, I'm Bill Jetzer. First time in politics here at the ripe old age of 52. I've been in Fitchburg for 27 years now. I live just on the other side of McKee Farms Park from here. And I am on the Transportation and Transit Committee, the Housing Advisory Committee, and Personnel, in addition to Board of Public Works. My day job, I'm in IT consulting. I do a lot of database work and ERP work. Going back a little further, 30 years ago, I got bachelor's degrees in physics and math. So hopefully I've got, if not any direct experience for public works, at least a background that can help me understand what's going on.
Thank you, Bill, and welcome. Don?
Hi, Don Gutkowski. Well, I appreciate being here, interested in public works. Currently, I work for the National Park Service, so I'm a civil engineer, roads, bridges, traffic, congestion, that type of effort that I'm working on. But prior to that, I had 36 years with the Department of Transportation in Wisconsin. And it was a mix of engineering work, primarily in the northwestern part of the state. Had Superior to Black River Falls and roads, bridges, working with communities, a whole bunch of stuff. And then since I had transferred down this way, I was a traffic engineer. Worked at the Traffic Operations Center, as well as safety and traffic policy coming out of Hill Farms.
Thank you and welcome. Got to mention, we also have City Engineer and Director of Public Works, Tim Bolker, in chamber with us tonight. Okay. So move on to agenda item 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. Scott, I don't believe we have any. Okay. All right, so then we'll move on to 4 Alpha, review of utility P-card purchases January and February. So any questions for Tim on these?
I do have one. As being the newbie, to ask probably the Mr. Obvious questions again. Tim, we're going to hook up and you can connect me with how the policy and procedure goes. Because I didn't look at this stuff in finite detail because I'm assuming a lot of the contract stuff has been negotiated, and that's where my mind goes is you take that SIN test. I assume we do an open bid. At the beginning of the year, you get lowest bid, and it gets billed weekly or monthly, and we're just paying the bill. So
yeah, for Cintas, that's our uniforms, and I believe they provide us towels too for our shop. So I believe that went through the city's procurement process, and then we just pay the weekly or biweekly invoicing that comes in.
Bill, do you have any?
Yeah, I was also going to ask about this rather long list of purchases here. What exactly is our role? I'm assuming that somebody is, making sure that these are all appropriate and everything. Is this strictly so that we are familiarizing ourselves with what's going on, or are we supposed to attempt some sort of validation against this?
I believe it's a little of both. You know, we ask the board members to look these over and scrutinize them, and if something doesn't make sense or they have questions, to bring it up. It's not essentially our approved, but we're doing our due diligence by looking over this list and asking questions of Tim. Kim, do you have any thoughts
No,
on that?
pretty much the same thing. It's like a credit card that the city has for contracts that they do, and they list them all so we see it. So basically, we just look through it, and if there's some things that are unusual amounts or unusual charges, we usually ask about them, because most of these are usually, we see the same ones every month, a lot of chemicals, a lot of meters, a lot of water, things for the water department. But it's basically just for our information to decide, if there's something that's an unusually large amount, or a new vendor, or somebody we haven't seen before. Or when I remember, there was a class that somebody took, and it just said class, and so they wanted to know what class they had taken and that kind of thing. So it's just sort of overlooking what the city is spending everything on their credit card, and if you have any questions to ask.
Like I mentioned to you and Don, it's a good way to read this, understand what's going on in Public Works departments, what we're spending the money on. That said, I do have a question. On the first page, Tim, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh one down, it's to Core and Main 901. What are meter horns? I know meters very well. That's my business, but I don't know what the horns are. You have a sense of that?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to follow up with Barry on that one.
Yeah, let me, just email the board. I deal with meters almost every day, every day of my life, and I don't think it's a horn that goes off if we're using too much power, so find out that, just drop us an email. Okay. All right, see no more questions. Let me move back up to the agenda here. All right, so that brings us to Agenda 5A, approval of the April 17th, 2023 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll move to approve the April 17th meeting minutes.
Okay, moved by Lobdell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jetser. Any questions, corrections, additions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next, agenda item 6, report from department head, Mr. Tim Volker.
For the record, Tim Volker, Director of Public Works, City Engineer. I'll start with some staff updates. We currently have 3 openings, the Transportation Engineer, Utilities Engineer, and Environmental Engineer. I think we finally found someone for our Transportation Engineer. Ross Kaler is currently our Senior Project Engineer. That position historically has handled the city's pavement maintenance and sidewalk repairs. Since Ross started a week before me, we've also involved him in the Lacey Road construction project, and he's also taken under the design of Fitchburg with, handling the AECom, our engineering consultant. And Ross has the skill set to become the transportation engineer. He's shown an interest in it, and I believe he'll succeed in it. So we kind of talked to him last week, and he's interested in moving into that position. He's next couple months is going to be taking his PE license too. So he just doesn't have a lot of transportation engineer experience, but like I said, his skill set's there. So we're going to kind of help him along, and I think with some training and some classes, he'll be able to succeed in that position. So although we seem to have filled that position, we'll still kind of have the same amount of openings. But I think it's a lot easier to find the senior project engineer position. It's not as technical as the transportation engineer. So in order to get some more candidates for Ross's current position, we'd look to probably remove the PE license, probably get some, hopefully a young graduate or someone with a year of experience, and kind of bring them in, show them the pavement maintenance, the sidewalk repairs, kind of the city's processes, and hopefully grow that person. So we'll see how that works out. As far as project updates, Sain Road reconstruction project still underway. The intersection of Lacey Road and Sain Road is closed with a detour. We're looking at probably early June to reopen that intersection. And the reason it's kind of slipped, the railroad is doing some simultaneous work on their grade crossing. And they're going to be getting in to do that work in the next couple weeks. So we're hoping by early June to open that intersection. And then Sain Road and East Sherrill will then be closed with a detour. For Lacey Road, Seminole Highway reconstruction project, the contractor for the tree clearing commenced work last week. He's out there this week working, and we're hoping he wraps up next week. And on April 25th, 2023, at the Common Council, we awarded the construction contract to Parisi. And then last week, Thursday, April 27th, we had the pre-construction meeting with Parisi Construction. And we're anticipating Parisi to start work on Lacey Road the week of May 15th, which is 2 weeks from today. So at first, you're going to see them really just installing the silt fence. And then the intersection, which is the roundabout at Seminole and Lacey, that won't be closed till after school is out, which I believe is the first or second week of June. And then their milestone to complete that work is to have it reopen prior to school, starting back up in August, September. And then for the Fitchburg Road reconstruction project, we had another design meeting last week, Friday, and the city attended with AECom, our engineering consultant, and also the town of Verona had attended that meeting just to kind of be brought up to speed with the schedule, the design, and we briefly talked about cost share. And with Fitchburg, the design, we're looking to complete 2023, 2024, and go to construction in the year 2025. And the Sherrill Drive stormwater improvement projects, we had a public information meeting on Thursday, April 20th. And really that meeting was just to kind of discuss the scope of the project and what to expect during construction with the adjacent residents. We're looking to begin that work in mid-May and complete that work in mid-July. And that project consists of storm sewer removal and replacement, some manhole and inlet installations, curb and gutter removal replacement, and some asphalt paving. And there will be some temporary traffic detours for the roadway work. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, for the Sherrill Drive, I remember a previous discussion where they were talking about mid-May to mid-June. I think that might have been at the April 20th meeting, Ben Schulte. But you just now said July.
Yes, it's anticipated completion mid-July, and that's what was included in all the mail-outs that was sent to the residents.
Okay.
I have a question, Tim. How well attended was that public meeting from the residents?
You know, I don't have the exact numbers. I do know several people were on Zoom for that meeting, and then also in person showed up. So.
Okay. Usually that lets you know how aware they are of the project, and if you can get more people at that meeting, the less phone calls you'll get later on down the road when the work starts.
And we've had some, even before that meeting, a couple residents reach out they live directly across the street, so they were just concerned with their driveway being shut down. Obviously, we'll give them a 48-hour notice of when that would happen and make sure their vehicles can get in and out for them to get to and from work or wherever they need to be.
Questions for?
I do. On Fitrona, you mentioned you started talking with Verona on cost share. Who gets the road aids right now?
Who gets the
Road aids.
road aids?
Yeah.
As far as for like grant money, or
Do you get for all your other roads? Are you getting from the federal government road aids? based on your lane miles and?
So for Fitch-Rona, the city had applied for a grant, and we received a $2.8 million grant. And right now, the cost of that project is anticipated to be around $6 million. And with how the road is split up, it's right down the middle of the roadway. So the west side of the road is Town of Verona, and the east side is City of Fitchburg.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how those joint roads, we're getting so much the state gives us a certain amount, per miles of road we have in the city.
Is it per lane mile, Don?
Yeah, usually it's per lane mile, and
So then they would split it, I think, because like the northbound lane would be Fitchburg's and the southbound lane would be the Town of Verona's. If they do pay on lane miles, which I think they do too.
Does that money need to be applied for, or is that automatically
it's
given?
automatic.
No, it's
Okay,
automatic.
every
You get
yearly?
for
Okay,
maintenance and
okay,
upkeep and
Yeah.
repair.
okay.
It's supposed to, in theory, be enough that if you stockpile it when you have to reconstruct.
Right, okay.
But I think it kind of also identifies, who jurisdiction owns it. It sounds like in this case, it's kind of funky. It's split in the middle, so.
Tim, the utility engineer position that was Tracy was in that, and she was promoted to assistant director. The environmental is a half-time position?
Correct.
Okay. And, I share the same, difficulty as you do, attracting experienced engineers and PEs. I'm sure Kim's firm does the same. And I think your plan to hire younger employees and encourage them to get their PEs is, I think that's the path. I think that's the path we should follow. I just don't think you find, maybe Kim finds a few more that fall in her lap, but we don't. It's mostly people coming to take them away from us.
Yeah,
And I know it's the same with the city. So developing your own people, and as soon as they come in and say, if you hire a new graduate, encourage them to take the FE test, right? Well, they still remember that stuff, and then at their 4 or 5 year mark, or they can take the PE anytime, but they can't get the license till they have 4 or 5 years. But I think it's a better path for us to follow. I think a more sustainable path for employees. You're also going to find, when they get their PE licenses, you're going to lose them. Some of them, but I think in the long run it'll be less work for you.
and currently the city, we have 3 PEs, so it's
Yeah.
myself, Tracy, and Ben Schulte, and then Ross, like I mentioned previously, will be sitting for his PE here shortly, so that could potentially be 4. So with those, we're gonna redo the advertisement for the environmental engineer, and then Ross's current position without the PE. We're still gonna leave the PE on the utilities. It's a little more important
Yeah.
there. And plus that, we just posted that, so if we don't get any interest here, I think we'll kind of reevaluate and potentially look at also removing the PE from that. So that's kind of where we're looking at going.
Yeah, it's as you know, Kim knows this also, it's very competitive for even new engineers, coming out of school.
It is, it's really hard to get them, but, I think, and Tim and I talked a little bit after the last meeting, that to me, it's still important to leave the FE requirement on, because like you said, sometimes that is the harder one for them to pass, and if they can take it right out of school. FE is the fundamentals of engineering. To get your license, there's two tests you have to take, the fundamental of engineers and then the professional engineers. So the fundamental of engineering covers a wide variety of topics, and it's usually most efficiently done right out of school, like
Or you forget it.
well, you still have all those things fresh in your mind. They go away as you don't use them. So to me, our experience has been that once they have that part, they may have to take the PE test once or twice. The first time sort of more gets you in the mode of what kind of questions they ask and what is it specifically that I should be studying for. So sometimes it helps more than anything else, but it's the pass rate is a lot higher than it is if they wait for 4 or 5 years to take the fundamentals of engineering.
Any other questions for Tim? Thank you for your report, Tim. Move on to our agenda items. First, we have 7 Alpha, Resolution R 8923, accepting professional services for McKee Farms Park tennis courts. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Labdell. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bell. So it looks like there is a capital improvement plan. We have roughly $750,000 in there to redo the courts. And we're hiring this firm to manage the construction, or, you know, I see that he's doing a survey of the, which I wasn't quite sure what that was necessary for. Maybe you can enlighten us here.
Yes, so the consultant we're looking to award this contract to would be doing the survey work along with the design, help us with the bidding process, and also construction administration. And the fee they're looking to charge to do all of that would be $40,600. So the city had advertised a request for professional services, and Fred Kolkman Tennis and Sport Surfaces was the proposal we received. It was reviewed by staff and is looking to award the professional services to this consultant.
Are these new tennis courts that are not there now?
No, they're currently there. So the city did an evaluation, and they looked at 6 options. 2 of the options would be to just repair the existing courts, and then 4 other options looked at new surfaces. So out of that analysis came this, what's called a pro bounce surface, and what it is, it's like a turf, and then there's a hard surface that goes over that turf, so that turf absorbs, you know, the ball and for the players, and it also provides longevity. The pro bounce wouldn't have to be replaced for another 30 years. Obviously, there's some maintenance that goes on between the year it's installed and year 30, but they did an analysis and found it was very cost effective, and then also that was the surface that most players choose to play on versus what they also, you know, they looked at a tile surface, which is kind of a plastic interlocking system, and that doesn't hold up as well. And the city went out to Wanakee, had installed this surface. It's been in place for about 2 to 3 years, and Joran and our parks director were pretty impressed with it. So
I also was wondering, because I thought it was replacement of existing one while you were doing survey, but and then I look at the line items, and the survey is only $2,600, so I figure it's just minor.
Is there, this is more for parks, which I'm on now, but have we talked about also lining those for pickleball the same time? I know Madison is doing that. They have them for tennis courts, but they also have the pickleball lines on there. And I don't know if you can see.
no, I believe this is strictly going to be tennis,
Okay.
and then the pickleball courts they wanted to keep separate.
Since you only received one bid, was it in line with what the cost, the engineer's estimate of the cost was going to be? Sometimes when you only get one bid, it's either way high or something else because they know they're the only bidder, but sometimes it's right in line with what you were expecting.
Yeah, this was right in line with what this was expecting. The $767,000 project budget also includes $100,000 to redo the fence. Is what I was told by the parks director this morning. So we're anticipating this surface to cost about $600,000 to $650,000.
I'm assuming we have to put in new net posts and everything.
Yes.
I noticed there was no lighting mentioned in this whole thing. The lighting must stay, but are they got to work around that, or how does that affect the construction?
Yes, they would work around whatever's existing out there currently for lighting.
Bill, you had a question?
Yeah, page 22 of the agenda packet lists the project description. It's got 14 items, and included is the tear down and the reconstruction of the fence. And then underneath that, it says the estimated construction cost is 600 to 650. You said so that makes it sound like the fence is included. You said the fence was an additional 100K.
That's what I was told by the Parks Director this morning.
Can you get clarification from us
Yes,
on that?
I can.
It's kind of a big, that's, yeah. I don't like to slip 6 zeros. All right. Any other questions?
And we can talk later too, but mine was in the same line of the procurement. When you have a sole source bidder, what's the tip point where you say, we're going to throw it out and try it again? Because I really find it hard, there's not other bidders right in the vicinity that wouldn't have jumped all over this.
Well, design of tennis courts is kind of a specialty that I don't think there is many consultants out there that just are certified tennis court designers. The city, I believe, has a working history with Fred. He has done some of our tennis court evaluations in the past. Like I mentioned, it was reviewed by staff. So as part of our RFP process, multiple members of staff sit in on that and review it and kind of come to an agreement on whether or not to award.
Who did the pickleball court at McGaw?
I don't recall. That was my next question. Back to your initial, on a sole source, kind of my threshold has always been, if you come in, plus or minus 10% from Tim or the city's estimate, I'm fine. I guess we'll go up to, we've gone up to 20% without rebidding or rewriting the spec, but, you start getting up around 20, you say, do we have a defined scope? Is our scope tight enough? I think, Tim, would you agree in your experience, most time if you were within plus or minus 10% of your estimate, if we had a single source, you didn't feel compelled to get another one?
Yeah, as long as it's reasonable. Also, schedule, if we put this back out, do you want to, the schedule would slip, obviously. I know they were trying to get some work done this year, towards the end of the tennis season, try to at least get the demo done. I think this new surface has to be poured prior to October is what they said. So that would be kind of tight. Obviously if they were not to award it, put it back out to advertise, that would kind of slip, and maybe all that work then gets put into next year, which could impact the start of the tennis season too. So, you kind of weigh all that, and, kind of what the committee determined was that, it was within budget, what was submitted. Company does have a working history, does good work, and that, we're still able to somewhat maintain the schedule that was originally laid out.
Any other questions?
It's not written in there, but are they able to work around all the different events you got going on at that park? Plus, do they have a staging area even?
Yeah, and that's what we'd work with, with the contractor that gets awarded towards the end of summer is, kind of coming up with a staging and storage area that would minimize the impact to the park and all that. So that's to be determined. But yeah, we'd definitely ask all those questions at that time and provide an area that provides the least impact to our residents.
That's a good point, Don. We have an event coming up down there. It's 6,000 people. So-
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the design so much, and that's what this is for the professional services for the design. They'll have to make sure that when they put together the specs to hire the contractor to do it, that they have all those restrictions in it at that point in time.
I'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R
Wait,
8923?
he's got a question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Wait,
No, go ahead.
I'm way over here.
No, take your.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So this is another example, and again, I'm new, so I don't know how these things work yet, but, so this is going to be, in the neighborhood of $750,000, and you said the projected life of the surface is 30 years. I'm not sure how that compares with the fence. I presume roughly the same, give or take. How do we, as a city, budget for this sort of thing? Do we have some sort of a schedule where we're, setting money aside for a project like this? There's other things as well. I know we're going to dredge a bunch of retention ponds. So again, the same thing. We know this is going to happen every so often. How do we plan for that?
Capital Improvement Plan, the CIP, it's all included in the CIP that goes out 6 years, I believe, and they have potential projects each year down the road. So, and this was in the Capital Improvement Plan, the CIP.
Yeah, I believe that the mayor recently added the tennis court reconstruction and maintenance to the CIP. And it's actually 10 years we've been taking it out, so. And we're just started that process, so you'll be seeing that coming forward to the Common Council for approval here shortly, and a presentation by staff showing, each of these projects and how they're laid out and what year.
It's a good question, Bill. It is a big chunk of money. And, initially, now if we build a new park or whatever, it's mostly parkland dedication fee is funding it. But the repair and maintenance, that's coming out of the general fund. We don't take these lightly, it's a lot of money. And, I think your background, the path of least cost is maintaining the stuff we put in. And we probably, I don't know if we fell down on our maintenance on this, for years they were talking about the fence was a problem. And I thought we maybe could have brought a pile driver in and pounded the post back down and been fine with the fence. But no different than our roads. If we maintain them, we'll get a longer life. And if we ignore them, there's another, up in Chicory Meadows, there's big cracks that have formed on their court. And if we'd been sealing those along the way, we probably could get some more additional life. So, but yeah, the capital improvement plan, bring your seatbelt, because there'll be a long meeting as we fight through that. Good question. Thank you for asking it. We'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 8923, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And again, if you could email us, like Bill was mentioning, it said 600, whether it made it look like that would include the fence, but,
Will do.
all right. Next, we have Resolution R 7023, releasing a portion of public utility easement within Lot 18 in the Hatchery Hill plat of Fitchburg. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Lobdell, do we have a second?
Good. I'm not saying no. I just had a question on,
So we'll go through, we'll motion approve, then we'll.
Got it.
Then we'll go through the question. I'm
Second.
sorry, I should explain
Nope.
the process.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll say a second by Don. So this was, we discussed this last time, where there was we had an easement, a 10-foot easement, and we found a hotel up there is encroaching on that easement. They've requested a relief from that easement. We are reducing it to 3.5 feet, I believe, and we are going to record that. And why did we postpone this, Tim, last time? We had a pretty good discussion on it.
Yeah, we didn't know, I guess, the reason behind the request from the hotel. So what transpired was the property switched owners. When the new owner went to get lending for the project, that the title search popped up that this was still an issue. It was never previously resolved by the city, where something either got recorded So really, if this doesn't get approved, it just kind of hangs out there, and is on their title, would pop up, during any future title searches for the property.
We don't have anything in that easement right now, and I believe the 3.5 feet would be adequate if we had to add something.
Correct, and then we're still keeping a portion of it in case we do need any, future utility needs. And then also the area that we are abandoning, the other utilities like gas and electric have abandoned, their portion of that same area.
Don, you had a question?
I did. I actually was on that 3.5. I mean,
Yeah.
talking this big, you're going to have to reconstruct that road sometime. What equipment are you going to fit in 3.5 feet to try to rebuild that? My mind was geared towards, rather than vacate it, you leave it a permanent easement that you're accepting on it. The other part of my question in that, again, previous life, easements meant something to the steward of that, and there was a value with that. Now, this is something really weird because they built, encroached on there, so that's a different lawyer-type discussion with it. But rather than just vacate it, if you really kindle for 3.5 feet, there's a value to that, to the taxpayers in this city here. I don't know, we should just vacate it. They should.
Yes, Don, just to give you a little history, I guess ordinance 2005-0-12 approved a planned development district for this, and as part of that, condition 5 required either vacation of that public utility easement or moving the building out of the public utility easement. So council passed resolution 115-05 in November 2005, vacating most of the utility easement. However, nothing was recorded. So, there has been previous action by council to vacate it. However, nothing ever was followed up to record it. So we're just kind of, I guess, finishing the process right now, just because it's, like I mentioned before, switched properties and this popped up as a title search. Otherwise, if it never got sold, we'd probably never know that it never got recorded.
That was the reason that, I read through that, and it was like it had gone through the whole process back in 2005, and for some reason it slipped through the cracks in the recording portion of it. Because I asked the same thing at the last time we were doing it, is the city going to get compensated at all for vacating this easement? But I think they dealt with all of that in 2005, and like I said, it slipped through the cracks. So normally, if we were just going through this the first time, we would probably be doing a lot more digging into why it happened, how it happened, that kind of thing. But in my mind, when I read through everything and I discovered that they had approved the whole thing, I think it's more of a, let's just get it done, because they went through all of that process back in 2005, and it should have been recorded at that point in time, but it was missed. So I guess I feel comfortable that we can vacate that. And it is behind the sidewalk, obviously, so hopefully they won't, if they redo any road reconstruction, it'll be from curb face to curb face, and they won't need any right of way, because it's not a state trunk highway, county trunk highway, or any kind. It's just a local road that only serves that area right through there. So,
Bill, any questions?
Well, I just want to thank Kim for remarks she just made, because I was going to ask if there had been any consequences for this, encroachment, because, if there's not, is that some sort of a precedent that other people are going to try and, take advantage of the same situation? But I don't know if you know for sure whether it was dealt with in 2005, but it sounds like it may have been.
we had that discussion, I think, at the last meeting as to setting a precedent and just saying, let people build where they want to, and went through the process with Tim as to how the city would normally find out that this, like before the occupancy permit or whatever. So we went through all of that and, discovered that there was a mistake in the process, but I do believe, I went back and looked through some of the stuff in 2005, they dealt with all of those issues at that point in time.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 8823, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, I'm sorry. Next, we have Resolution R 88, I'm sorry. We called the vote on Resolution R 7023. And can we vote on that again? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution passes. Next, we have Resolution R 8823, granting a non-compensable public utility easement in Outlot 23 in Swan Creek, and this was also postponed from our last meeting. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Lobdell, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jetser. As you read through this, you saw, with the reconstruction, we're undergrounding, and we prefer to have the lines undergrounded in that section, and there's no more room. There's no more room in the right-of-way for overhead line. And so we are granting them an easement in Outlot 23, but in the future, if we need that, they have to move at their expense. This is a bit of a strange one. One question for you, Tim, before I open up to other board members. Did we ask them to consider putting the poles on private right-of-way? Because typically, if we're doing a project like this, we're trying to improve the aesthetics, and it costs a lot of money to underground, but I'm wondering if that was an option that was considered.
No, the Outlot 13 or 23 was the most feasible location, and we have other utilities within that outlot. That outlot was specifically dedicated for roadway purposes, and as you mentioned, it is non-compensable, so any future cost at relocating this would be at MG&E's expense.
So do we have water and sewer? Do we have utilities in that outlot?
I think water's still within the right-of-way. Sewer may be there, but internet and cable, fiber, all that runs through that outlet also.
Okay.
So we did not have a discussion about this at the last meeting for the new members' benefit. We were waiting on some information, and Tim had asked that we defer it. So this is back again, but we did not have any discussion the last meeting.
Yeah, we were still working through the agreement with MG&E. They had some issue with the non-compensable portion of it, so we were able to still get that to remain within the agreement by negotiating with them after our last Board of Public Works meeting.
My only comment to you, get it located accurately, have everything in there located accurately or mapped properly. Bill?
Along those same lines, I noticed it says MG&E has overhead electric in the right-of-way on the west side of Scion. They also have some on the east side between Lacey and East Sherrill. Are we concerned about the east side or only the west side?
Just the west side's in conflict with the construction currently going on.
Is our current practice for utilities on city right-of-way to always be non-compensable?
We'd prefer that. It's less cost to us versus compensable, where the city would be on the hook to pay for any relocation.
I think the policy is, if it is within the city limits, it is non-compensable.
It's in the road, in
Yeah.
our road right away.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's just when it's on private property that it usually is compensable depending. And so this is an unusual case that it would still be non-compensable, but it's in that outlot.
Yeah, that's the question, I've dealt with this a lot. And I'm sure you have too, Don and Kim, that, say it's along a road, transmission line or something, they always try to get that 1 foot on private property so that the DOT comes along and widens the road. They're not paying for, moving moving their line. But if they're willing, they're gonna go in here and I doubt it'll ever come into play, so. Any other questions on this? All right, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 8823, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our next Board of Public Works is Monday, May 15th. If any of you are not able to make it, let me know. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Lobdell. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.